Ethel Kennedy, the widow of Robert F. Kennedy, raised their 11 children amid tragedy, resilience, and an enduring commitment to public service. Following her husband's assassination in 1968, Ethel dedicated herself to keeping his legacy alive while raising their large family. Each of their children has followed their own unique path, some entering politics and activism, others pursuing law, business, media, or the arts. From Joseph Kennedy II's political career to Rory Kennedy's award-winning documentaries, the Kennedy children have continued to make their mark on the world in various ways. But where are they now? Here's a look at what happened to Ethel Kennedy's 11 children and how they've carried forward the Kennedy legacy. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend was the eldest child of Ethel and Robert F. Kennedy. As a member of the prominent Kennedy family, her early years were shaped by both privilege and tragedy. From a young age, Kathleen displayed a strong passion for horseback riding and quickly developed into a skilled equestrian. However, her aspirations in the sport were cut short at the age of 14 when she suffered a serious accident that forced her to step away from competitive riding. Her life took an even more devastating turn at 16 when her father, Robert F. Kennedy, was assassinated during his 1968 presidential campaign. This tragic event profoundly influenced her worldview and solidified her lifelong commitment to public service. Despite the immense personal loss, Kathleen pursued higher education, attending Radcliffe College, where she further developed her academic and leadership skills. She later earned a law degree from the University of New Mexico, equipping herself with the knowledge and expertise to enter the world of politics and advocacy. Kathleen's political career saw her break barriers. In 1994, she made history as Maryland's first female lieutenant governor, serving under Governor Paris Glendening. During her tenure, she focused on education reform, public safety, and economic development, demonstrating her dedication to progressive policies. However, her political trajectory suffered a setback in 2002 when she ran for governor of Maryland and lost to Republican Robert Ehrlich. Despite this defeat, she remained an influential voice in public policy and continued to champion social justice issues. In addition to her political career, Kathleen is an accomplished author. In 2007, she published Failing America's Faithful: How Today's Churches Are Mixing God with Politics and Losing Their Way, a book that explores the intersection of faith and politics, critiquing the ways in which religious institutions have strayed from their moral missions. Her work in academia has also been significant, with teaching positions at both Georgetown University and Harvard University, where she has shared her insights on public policy and governance. Kathleen's personal life has been marked by both triumph and sorrow. In 2020, tragedy struck once again when her daughter, Maeve Kennedy McKean, and grandson, Gideon, drowned in a canoeing accident in the Chesapeake Bay. This devastating loss was yet another painful chapter in the Kennedy family's history, reinforcing the resilience that Kathleen has demonstrated throughout her life. Despite the hardships, she continues to be a strong advocate for public service, education, and social justice, carrying forward the Kennedy legacy with dedication and perseverance. Joseph Patrick Kennedy II. Named after his grandfather, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., he grew up in an environment where public service was both a responsibility and a tradition. As the eldest son of Robert F. Kennedy and Ethel Kennedy, Joseph experienced the weight of both privilege and tragedy from an early age. The assassination of his father in 1968, when Joseph was just 15, left an indelible mark on his life, influencing his later commitment to social justice and public policy. Joseph attended the prestigious Milton Academy before enrolling at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. While he did not follow a conventional path to higher education, briefly leaving college to work on community projects, he later completed his studies, reinforcing his passion for public service. In the 1970s, he directed much of his energy toward addressing economic disparities, particularly in the realm of energy access for low-income families. Recognizing the struggle many Americans faced in affording heating oil, Joseph founded Citizens Energy Corporation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing low-cost and free energy to those in need. The organization became well known for its innovative programs, including partnerships with Venezuela's state oil company to supply discounted heating oil to low-income households in the United States. His leadership in this initiative highlighted his commitment to practical solutions for social inequality, making him a prominent advocate for energy justice. Building on his philanthropic work, Joseph entered the political arena in 1986, winning a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives from Massachusetts' 8th Congressional District. His tenure in Congress, which lasted until 1999, was marked by a focus on health care, housing, and energy policies aimed at assisting working-class families. As a Democrat, he was an outspoken advocate for consumer rights and economic equity, often working to expand affordable housing and access to essential services. His legislative work helped to secure funding for community development projects, and he played a role in advocating for increased oversight of corporate interests in the energy sector. Beyond his political and nonprofit work, Joseph's personal life has also been in the public eye. He married Sheila Rauch in 1979, and the couple had twin sons, Matthew and Joseph P. Kennedy III. Joseph III would later follow in his father's footsteps, serving in Congress and continuing the family's political legacy. However, Joseph and Sheila's marriage ended in divorce in 1991, leading to a complex and widely discussed annulment dispute within the Catholic Church. In 1993, Joseph married Elizabeth Kelly, with whom he has maintained a private yet supportive relationship. After retiring from Congress, Joseph shifted his focus back to Citizens Energy Corporation, continuing to champion energy affordability for vulnerable communities. His work has cemented his reputation as a leader in both philanthropy and public service, demonstrating a lifelong commitment to the principles of economic justice and social responsibility. Through both his nonprofit efforts and political career, Joseph P. Kennedy II has upheld the family's tradition of service while forging his own distinct path in addressing the needs of underserved communities. Robert Francis Kennedy, Jr. Robert Francis Kennedy, Jr. pursued higher education with a focus on law, earning a Juris Doctor degree from the University of Virginia School of Law and a Master of Laws from Pace University. While he appeared to be following in his family's tradition of legal and political engagement, his early adulthood was derailed by substance abuse issues. In 1980, at the age of 26, he was arrested for heroin possession after being found unconscious on a plane. The incident led to a court-mandated community service sentence, which ultimately became a turning point in his life. Following his recovery, Kennedy dedicated himself to environmental law and advocacy, becoming one of the nation's most recognized environmental lawyers. He worked with Riverkeeper, a nonprofit organization focused on protecting New York's Hudson River, and later became a leading figure in the Waterkeeper Alliance, an international movement advocating for clean water. His legal efforts have played a role in holding corporations accountable for pollution and fighting for stronger environmental protections. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, he was widely respected for his work in conservation, sustainable energy, and legal action against polluters. However, Kennedy's reputation has been overshadowed by his controversial stance on vaccines and public health issues. Over the years, he has been one of the most vocal spreaders of anti-vaccine conspiracy theories, falsely linking vaccines to autism and other health problems, despite overwhelming scientific evidence refuting such claims. His views have drawn widespread criticism from medical professionals, scientists, and even members of his own family, many of whom have publicly distanced themselves from his positions. In 2023, RFK Jr. announced an independent campaign for the presidency, seeking to position himself as a political outsider, challenging both major parties. His campaign, which initially gained attention for its focus on issues like government transparency and corporate influence, struggled with credibility due to his history of promoting misinformation. As the election cycle progressed, Kennedy failed to gain the necessary traction to remain competitive. Ultimately, he withdrew from the race and endorsed Donald Trump, a move that stunned many political observers and further alienated him from the Democratic establishment and his traditionally liberal-leaning family. Kennedy's personal life has also drawn public attention. He has been married 3 times, first to Emily Ruth Black, with whom he had 2 children, followed by Mary Richardson, whose tragic suicide in 2012 made headlines. He is currently married to actress Cheryl Hines, best known for her role on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Hines has occasionally addressed the controversy surrounding her husband's views, at times offering support, while also distancing herself from his more extreme positions. David Anthony Kennedy. Kennedy. Growing up in the Kennedy family meant living in the public eye, but despite the privilege and influence that came with his lineage, David's life was deeply marked by tragedy and personal struggles. David was only 13 years old when his father was assassinated in June 1968 while campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination. The loss of his father was a devastating blow, and it left an indelible mark on his young life. Unlike some of his siblings who found ways to channel their grief into activism and public service, David struggled to cope with the immense emotional pain. Witnesses recalled that on the night of his father's assassination, David had watched the events unfold on television, paralyzed with shock and unable to comprehend the loss. This traumatic experience is widely believed to have been the catalyst for his lifelong battle with substance abuse. Despite his inner turmoil, David attempted to follow the family tradition of academic excellence, enrolling at Harvard University. However, his addiction problems, which had begun in his teenage years, escalated during his time in college. He eventually dropped out of Harvard, unable to keep up with his studies as his dependence on drugs and alcohol deepened. Over the years, David made multiple attempts at rehabilitation and recovery. His family, particularly his mother Ethel, made significant efforts to support him, encouraging him to seek treatment at various facilities. However, despite moments of progress, he was never able to fully overcome his addiction. By the early 1980s, David had largely withdrawn from public life, his struggles with substance abuse overshadowing any ambitions he might have had. He spent much of his time moving between rehabilitation centers, family homes, and hotels. On April 25, 1984, at the age of 28, David was found dead in a Palm Beach, Florida hotel room. The official cause of death was a drug overdose, reportedly from a lethal combination of cocaine, Demerol, and other substances. David's death was yet another tragedy for the Kennedy family, reinforcing the so-called Kennedy curse, a series of premature deaths, assassinations, and personal struggles that have plagued the family for generations. His passing served as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of addiction, even within a family known for its strength and resilience. Though his life was cut short, David's story remains an important part of the Kennedy legacy, highlighting the challenges of grief, loss, and the battle with substance abuse. Mary Courtney Kennedy Hill. Unlike many members of the Kennedy family, Courtney has largely chosen a private life, staying out of the political and public spotlight that has defined much of her family's legacy. While her life has not been as publicly scrutinized as those of some of her siblings, she has experienced both deep personal joys and profound tragedies. Courtney was raised in the Kennedy family's traditional environment of political activism and public service, but she did not pursue a career in politics or law. Instead, she focused on personal passions and family life, seeking a path away from the pressures of public office. In 1980, she married Robert Russa, a producer and financial consultant. Their marriage lasted for a decade before they divorced in 1990. Following this, Courtney's life took an unexpected turn when she met Paul Hill, an Irish activist and one of the Guildford Four, a group of men falsely convicted in the 1970s for involvement in IRA bombings in England. Hill had spent 15 years in prison before his conviction was overturned in 1989, following widespread advocacy and legal battles that exposed the wrongful nature of the charges against him. Courtney's connection to Paul Hill was arranged by her mother, Ethel Kennedy, who had met him during a congressional hearing on human rights. Deeply moved by his story of wrongful imprisonment, Ethel introduced Courtney and Paul, believing they would form a strong bond. The two married in 1993, and their union became a testament to resilience and redemption. In 1997, Courtney and Paul welcomed their only child, a daughter named Ethel Kennedy Hill. Raised within the Kennedy family's close-knit environment, Ethel was a bright and compassionate young woman who openly advocated for mental health awareness. She courageously wrote about her struggles with depression and the emotional toll of trauma, seeking to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues. Tragically, in 2019, Ethel died of an accidental drug overdose at the Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, at just 22 years old. Her passing was yet another heartbreaking chapter in the Kennedy family's history of untimely deaths and struggles with addiction. The loss devastated Courtney and Paul, who had already faced their own share of personal challenges. Since her daughter's passing, Courtney has continued to live a private life, away from media attention. She has occasionally spoken about mental health awareness and the importance of addiction recovery resources, honoring Ethsel's legacy by advocating for open conversations about mental illness. Despite the tragedies she has endured, Courtney remains a deeply devoted mother and wife, carrying forward the strength and resilience that define the Kennedy family. Michael LeMoyne Kennedy. Raised in one of America's most prominent political families, he was surrounded by the legacy of public service and activism from an early age. Despite the weight of his family's history, Michael pursued a career in law and political strategy, following in the footsteps of his father and many of his siblings. Michael attended Harvard University, where he developed a reputation for being both academically gifted and socially active. He later continued his education at the University of Virginia School of Law, earning his law degree in 1984. Upon graduation, he worked as a lawyer and political strategist, becoming involved in Democratic campaigns and public advocacy, furthering the Kennedy tradition of political engagement. In 1981, Michael married Victoria Denise Gifford, the daughter of NFL legend Frank Gifford. The couple had 3 children together, and for many years they were viewed as an ideal representation of the Kennedy family's next generation, privileged, politically active, and dedicated to philanthropy. Michael became particularly involved in the Citizens Energy Corporation, a nonprofit founded by his brother Joseph P. Kennedy II, which aimed to provide affordable energy to low-income families. However, Michael's life took a dramatic and scandalous turn in 1997, when allegations surfaced that he had engaged in an inappropriate relationship with the family's teenage babysitter. Reports claimed that the relationship had begun when the girl was just 14 years old, although Michael denied any sexual involvement before she turned 16, which was the legal age of consent in Massachusetts at the time. The accusations deeply shocked the Kennedy family and the public, tarnishing Michael's once respected reputation. Although he was never formally charged with a crime, the controversy led to an intense media firestorm and strained his personal and professional relationships. Amidst the scandal, Michael sought treatment for alcohol addiction and stepped back from public life. Tragically, Michael's life was cut short on December 31, 1997, in a skiing accident in Aspen, Colorado. While vacationing with family, he was playing football on skis, a risky and dangerous pastime that was reportedly a Kennedy family tradition. While attempting to catch a pass, Michael lost control and collided with a tree, suffering fatal head injuries. Despite immediate medical attention, he was pronounced dead at the scene, marking yet another untimely and tragic death in the Kennedy family. Michael's passing, just months after the scandal, left a complex and controversial legacy. His philanthropic work and commitment to public service were overshadowed by the allegations that had rocked his family. Yet his death was still mourned by those who remembered him as a dedicated father, husband, and advocate. His widow, Victoria Gifford Kennedy, later focused on raising their children and rebuilding life outside of the Kennedy spotlight. Mary Kerry Kennedy pursued her education at Brown University, where she developed a strong interest in law, justice, and global activism. She later earned her law degree from Boston College Law School, equipping herself with the legal expertise needed to fight for marginalized communities worldwide. In 1981, at just 22 years old, Kerry launched her career in international human rights advocacy, beginning a lifelong mission to combat injustice, promote freedom, and defend the oppressed. She has served on the boards of multiple nonprofit organizations and worked alongside global leaders, activists, and policymakers to address issues such as racial and gender equality, indigenous rights, and government accountability. Her work has earned her numerous awards, including recognition from Save the Children and the International AIDS Trust. One of Kerry's most significant roles is her leadership in Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights, the organization her mother, Ethel Kennedy, founded after RFK's assassination in 1968. As president, Kerry has expanded the organization's reach, leading initiatives that focus on criminal justice reform, corporate responsibility, and international advocacy. Under her leadership, RFK Human Rights has fought against child labor, torture, and political oppression, working in countries across Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. Beyond her humanitarian work, Kerry's personal life has also been of public interest. In 1990, she married Andrew Cuomo, who would later become governor of New York. The couple had 3 daughters, Cara, Mariah, and Michaela, before divorcing in 2005. Despite the end of their marriage, Kerry has maintained a strong presence in public life, focusing on raising her daughters and continuing her advocacy work. Throughout her career, Kerry has used her platform to amplify the voices of the oppressed, working tirelessly to uphold human rights and social justice. She remains one of the most active and influential members of the Kennedy family, carrying on her father's legacy of justice and equality in the modern era. Matthew Maxwell Taylor, Max Kennedy. Inspired by his father's legacy, Max developed a strong sense of justice and civic responsibility, which would shape his career in law, politics, and historical preservation. Max attended Harvard University, where he pursued a degree that reflected his deep interest in law, history, and governance. During his time at Harvard, he became actively involved in political and advocacy efforts, further solidifying his passion for public service. After graduating, he continued his education at the University of Virginia School of Law, earning his law degree and preparing for a career in the legal field. Max made headlines early in his career in a moment that seemed to embody the courage and determination of his father, Robert F. Kennedy. On his first day as a prosecutor in Philadelphia, he found himself chasing down a mugger on foot, a dramatic act that was widely publicized and served as a testament to his commitment to justice and law enforcement. This bold action set the tone for his legal career, reinforcing his fearlessness and dedication in upholding the law. Beyond his work as a prosecutor, Max has remained actively involved in politics. He played a significant role in his uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy's 1980 Senate campaign, supporting his bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. Decades later, he contributed to President Barack Obama's 2008 presidential campaign, aligning himself with Obama's message of hope, change, and progress, values deeply rooted in the Kennedy family tradition. In July 1991, Max married Victoria Ann Strauss, and together they have 3 children. Despite his political involvement, Max has also dedicated a large portion of his life to writing and historical preservation, focusing on ensuring the legacy of the Kennedy family's contributions to American history remains well documented and accessible to future generations. His work as an author and historian has included archiving family documents, preserving historic sites, and sharing the Kennedy story through lectures and public engagements. Through his work in law, politics, and historical preservation, Max Kennedy has upheld his family's legacy of service, activism, and public engagement. His unique contributions, from his early days as a bold prosecutor to his dedication to historical documentation, demonstrate his commitment to honoring the Kennedy name while forging his own path in American public life. Christopher George Kennedy. From an early age, Christopher was instilled with the values of public service, leadership, and business acumen, which would shape his career in both politics and the corporate world. Christopher attended Boston College, where he graduated in 1986 with a degree in political science. Following in the footsteps of many of his family members, he became actively involved in politics early in life. One of his earliest political experiences was working on Senator Ted Kennedy's 1980 presidential campaign, an opportunity that provided him with first-hand exposure to national politics, campaign strategies, and public service. After completing his undergraduate studies, Christopher pursued a career in business, recognizing the importance of economic leadership and financial management. In 1994, he earned an MBA from Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management, equipping himself with the skills necessary to manage large-scale businesses and financial investments. Christopher went on to serve as president of the Merchandise Mart in Chicago, a massive commercial real estate and trade center that had been owned by the Kennedy family for decades. Under his leadership, the Merchandise Mart continued to thrive as a hub for design, commerce, and innovation. Beyond his work at the Mart, Christopher also took on a leadership role as chairman of Joseph P. Kennedy Enterprises, the entity responsible for overseeing the Kennedy family's financial holdings and investments. Despite his success in the business sector, Christopher maintained a strong interest in politics and public service. In 2018, he ran for governor of Illinois as a Democrat, positioning himself as a reform-minded candidate with a focus on economic growth, education, and government transparency. However, he faced tough competition in the Democratic primary and ultimately lost to J.B. Pritzker, who went on to win the general election. Christopher has also been deeply involved in philanthropy and civic engagement, supporting initiatives focused on education, economic development, and social justice. His work reflects the Kennedy family's ongoing commitment to progressive policies and public service. On a personal level, Christopher has been married to Sheila Sinclair Berner since 1987, and together they have 4 children. Despite the challenges of balancing business, politics, and family life, he has remained dedicated to upholding the Kennedy legacy while forging his own path. With a blend of business expertise, political involvement, and philanthropic commitment, Christopher Kennedy has made significant contributions in both the corporate world and public service, ensuring that the Kennedy family's influence continues into the 21st century. Douglas Harriman Kennedy, growing up as part of the famous Kennedy family, Douglas was surrounded by a deep tradition of public service, politics, and activism. However, unlike many of his siblings who pursued careers in law, politics, or business, Douglas chose to forge his own path in broadcast journalism, becoming a respected reporter and storyteller. Douglas attended college with a strong interest in media and communications, recognizing the power of storytelling in shaping public discourse. He pursued a career in journalism and, in 1996, joined Fox News, where he quickly established himself as a skilled and insightful reporter. Over the years, Douglas has covered major national events, breaking news stories, and human interest features. His ability to connect with everyday Americans and highlight their struggles and triumphs led to the creation of his long-running segment, Douglas Kennedy's American Stories. Through this platform, he has brought unique and compelling narratives to the public, focusing on ordinary individuals overcoming extraordinary challenges. His storytelling style emphasizes depth, authenticity, and a human-centered perspective, setting him apart from traditional political journalists. Despite being a member of one of the most politically influential families in American history, Douglas has largely stayed away from politics, preferring to focus on journalism and reporting rather than public office or activism. While many of his siblings and relatives have held positions in government, law, and advocacy, Douglas has chosen to observe, document, and share stories rather than directly participate in political affairs. In 1998, Douglas married Molly Stark, and together they have 5 children. Family remains an essential part of his life, and despite the demands of a career in journalism, he has maintained a private and family-oriented lifestyle. Throughout his career, Douglas Kennedy has built a reputation as a thoughtful journalist, skilled storyteller, and dedicated family man. His work in broadcast journalism ensures that he continues to play an important role in shaping public narratives and bringing human-centered stories to light, all while maintaining a distinctive independence from the political legacy of the Kennedy family. Rory Elizabeth Catherine Kennedy. Rory Elizabeth Catherine Kennedy was the youngest child of Robert F. Kennedy and Ethel Kennedy. Tragically, Rory never had the chance to meet her father, as he was assassinated 6 months before her birth during his 1968 presidential campaign. Despite this heartbreaking reality, she was raised deeply immersed in the Kennedy family's legacy of public service, activism, and social justice, which profoundly influenced her career and personal mission. From an early age, Rory displayed a strong passion for storytelling and social change. She pursued these interests through filmmaking, using the medium as a powerful tool to shed light on injustice, human rights issues, and historical events. She attended Brown University, where she studied women's issues and documentary filmmaking, setting the foundation for what would become an acclaimed career as a documentarian. Rory has built a reputation as a visionary filmmaker, using her platform to amplify voices that might otherwise go unheard. Her films frequently tackle pressing social issues, including poverty, war, political corruption, and gender equality. Many of her works have premiered at prestigious festivals, including Sundance, Tribeca, and Woodstock, earning widespread acclaim. Some of her most notable films include Ghosts of Abu Ghraib, 2007, a deep dive into the controversial abuse of prisoners at the Abu Ghraib prison during the Iraq War. Ethel, 2012, a deeply personal documentary about her mother, Ethel Kennedy, offering an intimate portrait of life in the Kennedy family. Last Days in Vietnam, 2014, a gripping account of the fall of Saigon, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. Beyond her filmmaking career, Rory's personal life has also garnered attention. In 1999, she married fellow filmmaker Mark Bailey. The couple originally planned to wed in July 1999, but tragedy struck when her cousin, John F. Kennedy, Jr., his wife Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and her sister Lauren Bessette died in a plane crash off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. In the wake of this devastating loss, Rory and Mark postponed their wedding out of respect for their family's grief. They later held a more private ceremony. Together, Rory and Mark have 3 children and continue to balance family life with their work in documentary filmmaking and storytelling. Over the years, Rory has won multiple Emmy Awards and remains an influential voice in social activism and media. Through her work, Rory Kennedy carries forward the spirit of her father, using film as a means to challenge injustice, educate audiences, and inspire change. She continues to leave a significant impact on both the film industry and the world of activism, ensuring that the Kennedy legacy remains relevant and meaningful for future generations. What do you think about Ethel Kennedy's 11 children? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.